had my issues throughout life. So we have this quote that I repeat every single day. Episode. My last question is, if you could put a billboard anywhere in New York City, what would it say?
Mother effing truck. We about to... Check 1 2. Mic check 1 2.
But if you go close, welcome back to the LUG Life Podcast, episode 9. I'm here with my good friend, Joe Apfelbaum. He's the CEO of Ajax Union. He's a LinkedIn guru. He is the most inspiring person that I've met in a while. He has this incredible weight loss journey. He's a rapper. He's got numerous books, which some of them I've read and are incredible. And ultimately, I think your style of entrepreneurship, what you have done over the last couple years, pivoting, all your different types of personal experiences make you who you are. And I know I'm really excited to sit down with you in this long format conversation because, you know, I feel like I always learn from you, and you're one of the few people that do such an amazing job documenting your life on social media that even though you and I haven't actually sat down in years, I feel like, you know, we're just picking up where we left off. So thank you so much for coming to LUG Life Podcast. And right now it's 68 degrees and sunny in Astoria, New York. And here we are.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me on this program. I've seen a couple of them, and I really appreciate the work that you're doing to document the journey of other entrepreneurs. So thank you.
Of course. So I think the most important thing that we should start off with is just your journey in the entrepreneurship world. Obviously, you started Ajax Union with your brother or friend?
No, so I started Ajax Union about 13 years ago with someone that I met at another company that I was working at. I was a CMO of a luxury watch business, and he was kind of like hanging around there wanting to start a company, and somebody wanted to invest money to start it, and we just ended up becoming friends. And through that friendship, we realized we needed to do something together, and Ajax Union was born.
Amazing. So that was 13 years ago.
Yeah, that was 13 years ago.
I would imagine that the pandemic completely changed the landscape of your business. Is that safe to assume?
100%. I mean, when I started in my career, let's say when I was 21, let's say 21 years ago or so, I didn't really know that business was a thing. Like, I didn't even know that businesses were businesses. Like, I didn't even understand business. I just saw people had stores, and, you know, I watched my mother in her store on the Lower East Side, and she struggled for like 10 years trying to build her business. She never made it to the $1 million mark, like 96% of businesses, and eventually she went out of business.
Wow.
And that really hurt me in a very emotional way, in a very deep way. It hurt me. And when I built my business, we were fortunate enough to be on the Inc. 500 as one of the fastest growing companies in America. We doubled our revenue many years in a row. And what I found was that the difference between my trajectory and my mother's trajectory is, besides that she was a women-owned business and she didn't have all the resources that she needed because of that, but more importantly, she focused on getting lucky. Like, everything was about like playing the lotto and let's stay open a couple more hours. Maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe somebody else will come in the store. And I never cared about luck. I cared about strategy. I was obsessed with strategy. I started my business in 2008. It was one of the worst possible years to start a business, and still I was able to grow the business to be one of the fastest growing companies in America, because it doesn't matter what happens. It matters what your strategy is, what your focus is, what you're trying to achieve. And if you know what your focus is, you can be successful. For me, before the pandemic happened, I didn't know that 75% of the customers that I was servicing would be affected by a pandemic. It's something I didn't really think about as part of my strategy. So within 2 weeks, I looked and I was like, oh, everything is good. Everyone's good. Everything's good. All of a sudden, I started getting conversations and phone calls. And before you know it, 75% of my reoccurring revenue wiped out, just like that. So could you imagine building something for a decade plus, and then all of a sudden you're feeling comfortable, you think you have it going on, and all of a sudden all that gets wiped out? And I did not stress out. I did not freak out. Instead, what I did was I said, all right, how do we shift our strategy? Because at the end of the day, is if you build something and you're confident in your own ability to build something, you can build something else. If I lost everything today and I had to start over, I would start over and build something better. So at the end of the day, it's like you have to work on your, I think it was Jim Rohn that said,
Yep.
you can only build your business as much as you build yourself. And so understanding that in a very deep way, in a very core way for myself, I focused on personal development. I've had a lot of changes in my life over the past several years. Besides losing the weight, besides becoming single, there's a lot of different things that changed in my life. And if I was tied to my identity as CEO, as husband, as, person who likes to eat at every fast food restaurant, I would have not been able to deal with it because the ego makes us think that we're this certain role or with this certain identity and we stick to it. And often we forget we're much more than that. We're much more than the role that we've been given. And by the way, the roles that I have in my life for the most part, I didn't really choose them.
Yeah.
Now I choose to be a father. But initially, I didn't really think about it. It's not something that I thought about like, oh my God, it was just something that just happened to me. So I encourage people to really think about in their own life, what are the roles that they actually want? And what are the roles that they're kind of resentful for, that they're in, but they don't really want it because they just fell into it based on circumstance. And if you choose your role, if you choose your life, then you're able to be more present. Then instead of having resentment, instead of having stress, you'll feel blessed. You'll feel like, wow, this is something I choose. A lot of people don't even want to get up in the morning. 80% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, how is that even possible? We're in America. So many countries in the world, people are living with poverty. They don't even have running water. They don't have any, and we have all this opportunity, all this abundance, and meanwhile, people are still struggling to make it happen, to scrape a couple dollars together. And a lot of it has to do with education, but it also has to do with a lack of awareness, not really understanding that our beliefs and our habits is what's driving every part of us.
Wow, that was so powerful. I couldn't agree more. Just out of curiosity, what kind of identity are you proud of right now that you're really leaning into?
Identity of a father. I mean, going through a very difficult breakup is something that really impacts children. But a lot of people think that it impacts children in a negative way. They don't realize that often when a relationship dynamic changes, it can actually impact children in a positive way. Yeah. Especially what they were experiencing before wasn't the most functional thing that they could possibly experience. And I feel like I spend more time with my kids now as a single dad than I did when I was married. I feel like I take them on more vacations, that I give them more attention, that when I'm there, I'm focused on them. And they feel that, they know that, they sense that, and they tell me that because I check in with them. It's very important for people to check with the people in their life, to just see kind of, not just how are you doing, also how are we doing? Yeah. And because I have a 16-year-old, I have a daughter who turned 14 yesterday, I have a son who's turning 12. These are adults, basically. Maybe their brains are not fully developed, but you can check in with them and they can tell you how they're feeling. And often they might say something that can help you impact the relationship. But if you don't check in, they're going to be like, no one even checked in with me. So it's really important to check in with the people that you love to see how you guys are doing. Because one of the things that I learned through many, many years of therapy is that you have a relationship with a person, they have a relationship with themselves, and the relationship that you have with a person is an entity on its own. It's almost like a business. Yeah. The business is an entity. So think about what's good for the business. Now, if you don't even think about the business and it's all basically just you and you're running all your expenses through a business, you're going to drown the business. The business has to be an entity on its own. You need to have an operating agreement. You need to have a prenuptial agreement. And if you don't have those things, if you don't have a will, the state has one for you. Yep. And so, the same thing with business. If you don't have an operating agreement, the state has one for you. So you can choose your life, or you can allow your life to just be whatever it is. There's always a default. And most people are living on default. And for me, I don't want me to be a father that's on default. That's just there just to say that I did it. No, I want to lean into that role. I want to make sure that I'm the best possible father I can be, and that means getting to know my kids. One of the things that I do with my son, my 12-year-old son, is I play Fortnite with him. And people are like, what do you mean, Fortnite? You're a 42-year-old man. You're playing Fortnite? I'm actually pretty good at it. And the reason I became good is because I dedicated myself to play with him and his friends, because what I found was when he's home, he's on the computer.
Right.
And if he's on the computer at home and I try to talk to him, he gets annoyed. So instead of me trying to pull him away from the computer, I go into his computer from another computer and we have a conversation. So me and him are driving in a car through Fortnite, trying to make sure that the storm doesn't kill us. And I'm like, hey, what's going on? How's school today? Oh my God, school was amazing. This happened, that happened. And we're talking on microphones, and we're having a conversation, and we're bonding and connecting and building a relationship through what he's interested in, not through what I'm interested in. I remember when I was growing up, my father wanted me to be a rabbi. And so he would bond with me on things that he was interested in, and I was not interested in learning like he was. He was obsessed with Torah, and although I respect it and I love it and I think it's important, I'm obsessed with business. I always was and I always will be. And so he never really cared about that. He didn't care about making money. He didn't care about technology. He didn't care about any of the stuff that I was into. And he still does until this day. And if I want to connect with my father, I got to get into his world. Yeah. But as a father, you don't, like for me, I'm the leader, right? So if I'm the leader, I want to make sure I'm getting into my kids' world. I want to make sure I get into my employees' world. Even when I started Ajax Union, the way that I had great employee retention was that I got to know what my employees' favorite snacks were. That's like a crazy thing, right? Like, do you know your employees' favorite snacks? Most people don't. But I knew that a particular employee liked Diet Coke. So when I went to Costco, I would get her a case, not one Diet Coke, a case of Diet Coke. And that's a big case. You know the way they have it in Costco? It's like...
We got a Costco right here.
Right. I saw it on the way here. I was like, oh my God, I got to go to Costco. But I would get her a massive case and I would put it on her desk. And when she would come in the morning, she would see a case of Diet Coke. And to her... that was heaven. That was like, oh my goodness, I have an entire case of Diet Coke. Now, if I would have bought her something that I thought was good or that I liked, she wouldn't have gotten, even if it was 10 times more expensive, she wouldn't have felt that. But because she knew, my assistant had a list of every employee, and I had 75 full-time people, every employee and what snack they liked. And I made sure to go out and get them the snacks they liked when they did something correct or when I wanted to show them some level of appreciation.
Yeah, I mean, that's so powerful. As a father of an 18-month-old daughter, right now, bringing her to and from our apartment to where she goes to daycare in the stroller, that 20 minutes in the morning, that 20 minutes at the end of the day is like the most important thing of my life right now, really. And you know what I've really learned through running multiple businesses, through living in 2 states, it's all about quality. And so many people are just so focused on the quantity aspect. But what you really learn, and again, I'm talking to a dad of 4 or 5, a dad of 5. Now you're talking about 5 different entities really, right?
100%. Each kid is an entity on their own. They all have personalities. They all have their own horoscope sign. So I got to deal with the Scorpio in one way, and I got to deal with the Cancer in a completely different way. I got to deal with the Taurus in one way, and I got to deal with the Sagittarius in a completely different way. The Sagittarius and the Taurus don't really get along that much, but I understand why, because I understand their personalities. I understand their interests. One kid is an artist. Another kid's a singer. Another kid's a dancer. Another kid's a computer guy. Every kid has a different interest, and if you understand what their interests are, if you understand what their personalities are, then you can have an intimate relationship with them where you're really getting to know who they are. You know, everybody wants love, but everybody calls love something else. I once read a book called The 5 Love Languages. And that book teaches you how to be able to have a relationship with someone based on what they consider love. Some people like touch. Some people like words of affirmation. Some people like physical gifts. The people that like physical gifts, if you go and touch them, maybe they're allergic to touch. Yeah. Maybe they consider touch something that because they had some trauma in their life, they don't like touch. And so if you give somebody love based on the love that you want, that's not really giving them love, that's giving yourself love. And so that awareness needs to happen to figure out how to be able to do that. Sometimes it's about quality time. But they're also, I like having a balance between quality and quantity. Some people are like, it's all quality. Some people it's like, it's all quantity. I say it's all balance. Yep. So having the right balance of knowing, yes, quality is important. Quantity needs to be there too. Because some people, when it comes to, let's say, for example, to networking, I talk about going deeper versus going wider. You need to have a certain amount of width, but you also need to be able to go deeper with people. And I feel like through this podcast, me and you are able to go deeper. And that's a powerful thing that some people don't even consider. Go wide, keep going wide, but make sure that you maintain and value going deep as well.
So I met Joe at Entrepreneurs Organization. It must have been almost 10 years ago, if maybe a little bit earlier. And at the time, I remember you were really getting into public speaking. But what was very clear is you were a natural salesperson. You were unbelievable at selling and creating the story that you were able to really lean into to paint a picture of who you are. By me saying that, I know obviously now you have 10 more years of experience, but I'll never forget the impact you made in my life looking at networking, right? So obviously you are one of the networking gurus in New York City. You are part of so many different organizations. But this has been a huge aspect of who you are, not only for your business, but also for your confidence, for learning how to really lean into these skills that you've used for everything, podcasts, LinkedIn. So by me saying this, and there's probably a lot of people right now that don't have the sales they need, but are starting this entrepreneur journey, what would you recommend to them if they don't consider themselves a natural salesperson like you do?
The more you do something, the better you get at it. I wasn't always a person that was good at having conversations with people. As a matter of fact, because I'm a little bit of a geek and I love technology, I didn't have that naturally. I was more of like a hermit that would hide in the house and just spend 16, 18, 20 hours, sometimes 24 hours just on the computer trying to figure it out, reverse engineer it. That's kind of like who I was. I wasn't the person that was like the party animal. I actually don't really like going to parties. I go to networking events because I learned the art of having conversations with people and building those relationships. So if somebody's not good at something, it's not about talent. It's not about natural talent. Talent is overrated. It's all about skill. You can learn any skill. I used to be afraid of public speaking. I was a terrible public speaker. You asked me to public speak, I'd be like, no, thank you. I would run away with a 10-foot pole. You would ask me to do networking, I'll be like, slimy networking. Who even does that? That's ridiculous. Who even wants to do networking? You would ask me to write. I wasn't able to write anything. I used to say the following. My excuse was, I'm not a writer, I hire writers. I have 3 dozen writers that work for me full time. I don't write, it's beneath me to write. Really, there was a fear of writing. I didn't even know how to do it. I was judged. Every time I wrote something, I had writer's block because I was all full of self-judgment and self-loathing and all that stuff that a lot of people experience, that they feel like they're not enough, and all the messages that we get from society that we're not enough, we're not big enough, we're not smart enough. And at the end of the day, when I really go back to my 9-year-old self and I think about that, it has to do with a teacher once telling me that I was an idiot and me believing them. And I write, if you go to my LinkedIn, I have an article about that where when I was 9 years old, a teacher literally said that in class. I got up to read. I wasn't a great reader. And one of the things that I realized was I'm an idiot. If he thinks I'm an idiot, he's the authority here. I'm stamped as an idiot. And then I spent my entire life trying to prove that I'm not an idiot. So it wasn't so terrible that I was treated that way or that I was told that, because I had to work really hard to get really smart, really quick in order for me to be able to survive. For me, it was survival. Becoming super intelligent and learning these sales skills and these networking skills and these writing skills and these public speaking skills and these business building skills was basically survival for me, not wanting to die. And so all the wounds that we have, and I would implore everyone to explore their wounds, because we have 3 major wounds that happen in our life, which is when we were 9, when we were like 15, 16, or in our early 20s. And when we explore these wounds, typically those are the wounds that create all of our strengths and all of our weaknesses. And many people don't take the time to explore them, and they allow these wounds to control their entire life and every relationship. And I've done so much personal development over the past decade that I'm able to handle, like I said, a lot of very difficult situations that happened in my life, and I'm able to actually see the blessings. I truly believe that everything that happens in our life is for our benefit. Wow. And if you have that mindset, life can be changed completely. I had a person that asked me this morning, his name is Brian. He wrote a book called Networking Like a Pro with Ivan Meisner, the CEO of BNI. And I bought his book, and I was inspired by his book, so I reached out to him, we connected. He's like, I need to have you on my podcast, through LinkedIn. And so today I was on his podcast at 9 a.m., and we had a conversation, and he said, Joe, what advice would you give to somebody that's starting out in business and is uncomfortable doing sales? He literally asked me that question. And I said, how does that person feel when a salesperson reaches out to them? He's like, probably they feel terrible, and they hang up, and they block them, and they don't want to talk to them. But if the person believes that everything that happens in your life is for your benefit, you would look at that salesperson as someone that actually wants to help you with something instead of being an annoying mosquito. So if you actually believe that someone reaching out to sales to sell you something can actually help you with something, and you actually take the time to speak to them, then you're also going to feel comfortable reaching out to other people. Yeah. But if you believe that a salesperson's annoying, and then you're not going to want to be that salesperson. The truth is, selling never works. Serving works. So I want everyone that is uncomfortable with sales to stop saying that they're uncomfortable with sales. Say that they're comfortable only with serving. And be of service to other people and add real value to them. You can never sell something to somebody that doesn't really need it. You can temporarily try to manipulate them, and they might give you some money, but that doesn't make a client. That actually makes an enemy, because you just took advantage of somebody. But instead, what you want is an ally. You want someone that will refer business to you. And so, you're in the junk lugging business. If you go to somebody's house and they actually don't need to get rid of their junk, but you convince them that it's actually junk, and you take their favorite couch because you convinced them, and then you charge them for it, now you made a negative review online. Now you don't have a friend. But if instead you help somebody and you declutter and help them keep the things that they need and help them remove the things that they don't need, now you actually did them a favor and made their life much, much better. So I always recommend to people that if you're uncomfortable with sales, it's not because you're not talented, it's because you have self-limiting beliefs that once you adjust them, suddenly your whole life adjusts around you, because you'll want to have more conversations. I always tell people, sales don't happen from going online and making noise. Sales happen from conversations. We're having a conversation right now. We're having a conversation right now. Those conversations usually lead to some type of opportunity, and often it's a business opportunity. So have an opportunity to have conversations with people, and if you explore that they need your services, offer it to them, but don't try to manipulate people, and try to change your shift of the way that you think about when people reach out to you, because that's an indicator that you have a self-limiting belief. If you feel discomfort or if you feel frustration when someone tries to sell you, that means you have an issue with sales.
That was amazing. Just to rewind a little bit, I could not agree more about struggle and trying to figure out a way that you can take some sort of struggle and turn it into some sort of blessing. And I think you're an advocate for it. And I also am, and we're in two completely separate businesses. But I would say that a lot of your success and a lot of my success was because we leaned into the struggles. And although at some times I think to myself, this is such a shitty situation, how can I see something positive in so much sadness or anger? But it just, it's some of the biggest learning lessons in my life are the biggest struggles.
There's an idea called toxic positivity. That is a real thing. So I'm not advocating that if something really bad happens in your life that you should say, oh, my whole house burnt down, yay! No, you don't want to do that. You want to acknowledge the things that, are that make you feel grieving, that make you feel sad, and be okay with processing emotions, and don't just wear a mask and run away from it. But you also have to have a balance of not looking at everything in life as a negative event. if you can't find something positive in something, I'm not telling you to go find something positive. What I'm telling you is accept the situation that you can change. You could live a life where sometimes negative things happen and you accept those things. And once you accept them, it's kind of like the 12 steps. I don't know if you've ever heard of the 12 steps, but there's a concept of the 12 steps. And the first step is surrender, is like accepting that there's a God and there's like a universe and there are things that are outside of your control. I believe that there's very little that we can control outside of our thoughts and our feelings. And we try to control other people and we try to control circumstances. And that makes us very depressed. That makes us very sad when we try to control things that we cannot control. You can't control the future. And the best way to predict the future is actually to create it. And you create it with your own thoughts and with your own emotions. And you manifest things by changing what you focus on. Because I believe where focus goes, energy flows.
This is a perfect segue into, one of your books. Do we have it here? High Energy. No, the one I was thinking about is your weight loss journey. High Energy Secrets. So that's the book that I read. Now looking back, so are you still at 95-pound weight loss?
I am at a very, very happy place where I've balanced out where I am.
Sure.
I lost 95 pounds. I figured out how never to gain the weight back, and I figured out a way to create a lifestyle where I can eat the things that I want to eat without becoming morbidly obese like I was. I was 265 pounds, and I went on a journey. And my journey started off with me not even like knowing that things like sugar and flour create fat.
Yep.
Like, could you imagine that there's a human being, he's 30-something years old, and he doesn't know that sugar creates fat. I thought that it's fat-free. Let's eat the box of cookies. It's fat-free. Stella D'Oro cookies. It's fat-free. Let's eat the entire case. Let's eat it. Now, I can eat a cookie now, but I don't have to eat the whole box of cookies because I realized that a lot of that was me stuffing food with my emotions. I was dealing with a relationship that wasn't really the way that I wanted it. I was struggling to really understand myself and my purpose in life. And there were a lot of issues that I kind of went through, and I basically just ate my emotions. And I was also smoking. I was smoking cigarettes, something that people look down on these days. But then, it was normal to smoke cigarettes. My partner smoked, I smoked, we had a ciggy. Let's go out and have another ciggy. And I would smoke sometimes a pack a day to relieve my stress. And it would actually zap my energy. I felt zen, but I didn't realize where energy even comes from. So High Energy Secrets explains that energy doesn't come from food. Energy actually comes from our cells. So how do we take care of our cells? Part of it's hydration. A 5% drop in hydration is a 30% drop in energy. Most people don't know that if you want to get motivated, you got to get hydrated. And a lot of the times that we're missing hydration, we get a headache and we think that, oh my God, something's wrong. So we take Tylenol, which actually hurts our liver. And we end up doing things that is common and because we're dealing with the symptoms instead of dealing with the source. And so the source of me being fat was eating. So instead of changing the way that I operated in terms of completely restricting myself, I started learning what are the actual foods that create fat and what are the actual foods that actually burn fat. What are the things, the habits that I need to create? I once went to a Passover program, and during the Passover program, one of the rabbis that were there, he said, if you want to be successful in life, you got to make your bed. And I was like, make your bed? Why would I want to make my bed to be successful in life? I have somebody working in my house. They make my bed. I don't make my own bed. And then I went to an EO event. And I had a Buddhist monk. His name is Dandipani. I don't know, you probably watched him speak at a nerve event or something. And he says, one of the most important things to do as an entrepreneur is to make your bed. And I was like, what is going on? Why is it so important to make my bed? I said, you know what? I'm going to make my bed. Because he says he makes his bed even when he goes to a hotel, which is crazy, right? You're at a hotel, you want to have a little luxury. So I started making my bed. And one of the things that I realized was that I had an automatic process to start making my bed. I didn't have to think about making my bed. And that's where I really learned the benefits of having systems and processes in my life. One day somebody asked me, Joe, do you still make your bed? And I was like, I don't know if I make my bed yet. I ran upstairs to check in my bedroom, and my bed was made. Yep. And it's one of the things that I realized, like I still make my bed till today, not because I even want to make my bed or need to make my bed. It's because my bed just gets made. And just like everything else that happens, our thoughts, our beliefs, our mindset, it's automatic habits. And so to improve your life, you got to improve your habits. We have so many habits in our life. We're basically habit machines. And so we have systems and processes, wiring that happens automatically, habits that gets created automatically that we don't even know or not even aware of. My mother used to pay me to eat. She would pay me to eat, so I had a habit to not just finish my plate, to finish everyone else's plates, because I got a financial incentive to eat, and to eat things that are not healthy, things that have sugar, flour, rice, potatoes, pasta, empty calories, drinking Snapple. I would go to Costco and buy cases of Snapple for the office, and I was like, let's sugarify the employees! Let's get some sugar! What I didn't realize is that everyone would crash after that. Of course. Instead of teaching people to breathe, instead of teaching people to drink the right amount of hydration, the right type of water. And now I teach people, like, it's about getting movement in. It's about drinking water. It's about cleansing your cells. It's about your thoughts and staying in a very high vibration energy of gratitude. And that actually increases my energy. The more I focus on positive things, the more enthusiasm I have, the more I can be in the present moment, the more I can breathe deeply in from my nose, out from my mouth, the more peace I have, the more power I have, and the more energy I have.
Roger and I were just talking today about breathing. I'm obviously obsessed with breath work too. I do a lot of box breathing, and yeah, it's just changed my life. It's, I try to incorporate, just like you were talking about, systems and processes. I try to set myself up for success. So I work on breath work in the morning. I work on breath work before lunch. I work on breath work before I leave the office, so I get that right headspace. And I don't make it this enormous process, but instead I make it this consistent, habitual process every single day where I can do it. Just check in with yourself, right?
You need a habitual ritual. That's what you need. You need the things to be automatic. If you want magic, you got to realize that the magic doesn't happen from getting lucky. The magic doesn't happen by going running one day. It's not what you do someday that happens, because we all know someday doesn't exist. Yep. It's what you do every day that happens. And so I always tell my students, inspect what you expect. You got to measure. Accountability is the ability to account. If you don't have accountability, it's because you're not measuring anything. What gets measured gets managed. So for me, I'm a living, breathing example of new habits I didn't have before. People look at it as like, oh, look at that guy. He's talented. He wrote a bunch of books. He's talented. He can do all the types of things. He can grow businesses. He can be on LinkedIn like a machine. I'm not on LinkedIn like a machine. I have habits. A habit to get exposure, a habit to get credibility, a habit to book conversations. I have habits. And if you want to be able to improve your life, you got to improve your habits. I always say micromanage the process, not the people. I said this 10 years ago, and I keep repeating it over and over, because people tend to try to micromanage their willpower. You can't micromanage your willpower. Your willpower is more powerful than anything else. You're not going to be able to maintain it or use willpower to break through not to eat cookies. Instead, what you got to do is build a new habit to focus on drinking water, eating greens, focusing on nutritious instead of delicious.
Boom. So I just want to make sure that we really focus on your LinkedIn, capability and recommendations for everyone watching. LinkedIn for myself and for my company has been enormous. And a lot of times I feel like when I talk to other entrepreneurs and business owners, they aren't even scratching the surface with the amount of potential that it could bring from LinkedIn. So do you mind just walking through everyone? Where would a person start, and what should be their goal through LinkedIn?
I had a CEO at a Vistage. I'm a Vistage speaker, and I speak at a lot of Vistage groups, EO groups, YPO groups. And one of the things that one of the executives said is LinkedIn was one of the most annoying things that I have. Ever since I opened up a LinkedIn account, people are hitting me up left and right. I don't know what to do. And I said, why did you open up a LinkedIn account? He's like, because somebody told me that it's important to be on LinkedIn, so I opened it up. I was like, but why is it important to be on LinkedIn? What is your strategy? So I tell every CEO, every executive, every salesperson, every professional that's using LinkedIn, what's your strategy? What's your plan? And they're like, my strategy is to avoid salespeople as much as possible because salespeople are annoying. And I'm like, that's not, what kind of strategy is that? Are you on LinkedIn to build relationships? Are you on LinkedIn to stay top of mind? What's your plan? What are you trying to achieve? And your LinkedIn plan needs to be associated with your marketing plan, and it also needs to be associated with your business plan. So when I'm training entrepreneurs on how to use LinkedIn, I take a step back and say, hang on a second, let's stop learning the technicalities of it or the tactics, and first let's set a strategy. Because I believe that the right strategy will save you a decade. I watched my mother suffer in her store for 10 years, not because she didn't get lucky. She was lucky, but she didn't have the right strategy. Luck will make you a living. Strategy will make you a fortune. So I tell people let's take a step back. It doesn't take much time. On the back of a napkin, let's write your strategy. What's your business plan? What's your marketing plan? What's your LinkedIn plan? Once I know your strategy, once I know your plan, now I need to figure out part of your strategy is who are the people you need to be connected with. Most people are just connected with people that are in their classmates or people that they work with. But if you want to be strategic, you got to figure out who can do business with you and who can refer business to you. And those are the two most important people to connect with. I also like connecting with people that are engaged on LinkedIn as well because those people will support my content. So have a connection strategy as part of your strategy. So the first thing is the plan. The second thing is the people. And the third thing is the promise or the pitch. Like, what do you need to say to those people to make them want to get on the phone with you? What do you need to say on your profile? What do you need to say on your content? What do you need to say? And most people just have generic messaging. I look at most CEOs' profiles, they just write CEO. No wonder people want to hit you up. You're not writing who you help and how you help them, and a bunch of people that want to help CEOs, search CEO and connect with CEOs. So instead of just writing account executive, don't write account executive. Nobody wants to connect with an account executive. Write something meaningful in your profile, but you can't do that if you don't have a strategy. So the first step is set a strategy. That's step number one. Step number two is build assets. Build up your assets. So what does it mean to build up your assets? Features tell, stories sell. So most people are not telling stories. I told you a story about a Vistage event. I spoke to the CEO. This happened, that happened. I told you stories about my family. Told you stories about my kids. All that is stories. People resonate with stories. Gestalt. You're an EO. You know what Gestalt is. Gestalt is not giving advice to people, but sharing your own experience. When you share experience, you're actually teaching, coaching, supporting, mentoring other people to be able to learn about your experience so that they can connect and learn without feeling judged. Here's something that I tell everybody. Coaching without permission is criticism. And often we want to give advice, but nobody wants your goddamn advice, except, of course, if you're dating somebody and you're a woman. Men love to give advice to women for some reason, or they like to mansplain them. So I went to where George Washington had his estate when he started the United States of America. He had an estate with Martha Washington. I don't know if you know history. But I actually went there because they have a museum right now. And there was a woman that made believe she was Martha Washington walking around telling the story. And the way that she courted George Washington is that she asked him for advice. Wow. So Pitbull, who is a big fan of Tony Robbins, I actually watched him speak. He did a motivational speak at a Tony Robbins event. I actually went with EO. And one of the things that he says in his song, very famously, he says that if you ask for money, you get advice. But if you ask for advice, you get paid twice. That's one of his lyrics to his songs. And so the concept is from both ends, don't give people advice without permission. That's selling. Selling is smelling. What you want to do is you want to share your experience, tell stories. So build assets, build your story. So we teach people how to do that in our course and coaching program. Also, optimizing your profile. An optimized profile will get 10 times more exposure than an unoptimized profile. If you look at how many people looked at your LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn gives you that KPI. After you optimize your profile using our 20-point approach, you will 10x the amount of views that you get because more people and more of the right people will end up finding you and wanting to connect with you. And then using the right automations. Like habits, you need to use technologies that will set automations that will help you be able to grow your network, that will help you be able to post consistently, that will help you be able to do the right research. And so we teach people 30 different technologies that they can leverage with LinkedIn to be able to improve what they're doing so that they can house their assets, they can have a content calendar, a library of assets and all that stuff, a dashboard for KPIs. And so once you have your assets in place, then you need to take the right actions. So you got your strategy as a foundation, you got your assets to make sure that you don't waste time when you're taking action, and you write automations, the right profile, the right stories. and then you're taking action. And there are really three things you need to get from LinkedIn. Number one is you need exposure. Number two is you need credibility, because people do business with people that they know and people that they trust. And then you need to have conversations. No one's really going to like you unless they know you. And in order for them to know you, you got to have a conversation with them. And so I always, as a key performance indicator for anyone that I'm coaching to use LinkedIn, I want to measure how many conversations they're having that are meaningful conversations with their target market. So if I was training your sales team or your franchisees, and I was trying to figure out if they're going to close deals, the first thing I would ask them is, how many conversations have you had with either people that can do business or refer business with you in the past 90 days? And most of the time it's zero or very close to zero. And if you want to improve your conversations, there's no better platform in this planet that I know of to be able to have business conversations with people. Because think about it this way. When you're going to LinkedIn, you're not thinking about friends, you're not thinking about family, you're not thinking about dating. Well, some people think about dating on LinkedIn. I don't recommend it. There are better sites for that. Some people are thinking about inspiration. They're thinking about business. They're thinking about networking. But when they're on Facebook, they're thinking about the F word, the fun, the freedom, the family, like all that stuff. So same thing with TikTok, same thing with Snapchat, same thing with Twitter, might I say. But on LinkedIn, the context is business. So because it's a professional social network, anyone that's on LinkedIn is there to do business. And people that do business typically have more money than people that don't do business. So if you want people that are broke, go to Instagram. There's plenty of broke people. 80% of people are living paycheck to paycheck. If you want millionaires, there are actually 22 million millionaires in the United States. And most of them use LinkedIn. The people that I speak to, that I associate with myself, 100% of them are on LinkedIn. Every CEO on the Inc. 500, every CEO on Fortune 500 companies, they're all on LinkedIn. How do I know? I'm connected to them. I have 11,000 CEOs I'm connected to on LinkedIn. I have 8,900 marketing directors I'm connected to on LinkedIn. I know exactly who I'm connected to on LinkedIn, and I actually build relationships with them. There's a company that was 674 on the Inc. 500 in 2020. I connected with the CEO right away. I try to send him a message. Every quarter, I send him a message. I don't want to harass the guy, but every quarter, I send him a message. One of his lieutenants, who actually had a company that this guy acquired through the pandemic, saw a seminar of mine at the Messengers Association last week. He reached out to me right after.
Shout out to Larry Zogby.
Shout out to Larry Zogby, who's around the corner right over here. Actually saw his truck. Larry introduced me to speak for the Messengers Association because he saw me speak at EO and he saw me speak at the Executives Association. He introduced me to the group. They had me speak for an hour. And after that hour, this guy reached out to me and he said, I'd like you to train our 35 salespeople. I looked up the CEO's name. I was like, actually, I'm connected with your CEO. I've been trying to get in touch with him because I admire what he's doing. He's like, trust me, you're going to get in touch with him. You're going to train our sales team because we have no idea what we're doing with LinkedIn. And we have trained over 600 companies. We had a company that started with us. Within 8 weeks, they generated a $250,000 contract from one strategy we gave them. And I have dozens of them that are easy to employ, easy to set as habits. And if you do the right thing, even in just 15 minutes a day, you're going to have conversations with the right people. And when you have conversations with the right people, you take it from there. You know what happens when you have conversations with the right people. You end up identifying the need, you end up identifying the budget, and then you end up closing some of those deals. And those deals can be high ticket deals, $250,000, $500,000. We even have a client that closed $1 million deal from the things that we taught him to do. He had a long sales cycle, but nurturing takes time. And LinkedIn's a great place to nurture people because you do it strategically within the business context. You know, one of the things people also don't realize, if you see one of your employees using LinkedIn, you're not going to get turned off. But if they're on Instagram or Facebook during business, you're going to be annoyed at them. And so employees are actually encouraged to go on LinkedIn. That's where you want to be. LinkedIn has a much higher organic reach than Facebook. When I post on Facebook, maybe I see 3 people see it. No one likes and comments. But when I post on LinkedIn, 1,000 people see it every single time. And I'm not the type of guy to go viral. None of my stuff go viral. I'm a strategy guy. Strategy is the opposite of viral. Viral's trying to get lucky. I don't try to get lucky. I want the right 1,000 people to see me 1,000 times a year. That's how I make millions of dollars.
So when you say content, well, 2 questions. One, I once heard that LinkedIn is one of the few social media websites where there isn't enough content. Is that correct?
There's 810 million people as us speaking today on LinkedIn. It's growing at a rate of 2 new members every second. The CEO of LinkedIn announced, the new CEO that took over recently, he announced he wants to get to 3 billion users on LinkedIn. It's a global platform. There's 196 million people in North America that use LinkedIn. 40% are logging in every day. 31% of traffic to LinkedIn comes from within the United States. So if you have a business in the United States, LinkedIn's a great place for you to have a presence and a strategic presence to actually have a strategy on LinkedIn. Now, out of the 40% of people that are active on LinkedIn, only 1 million posts are going up every single day. And most of them are coming from me. So there's a lot of people, a lot of eyeballs, a lot of lurkers, but very few people are actually posting. So when you post on LinkedIn, LinkedIn actually wants to get it out there to people because people spend time on the feed and they don't engage very much. That's why it's important to find people that are engaging type of people, build a real relationship with them. Even if you only have a few dozen, you're going to start getting a few dozen likes and a few dozen comments, and we teach our students how to do that.
And I also notice on LinkedIn, they do a really great job. Let's say I see you like or comment on another inspiring post or some sort of post. I know you do it very often where you ask your audience, right? You poll them, you engage them and try to bring them into a conversation. And I think that's one of my favorite parts about LinkedIn, as I consider myself a newbie. If I respect Joe, I see Joe comment on something, I'll go then look at that post and see what it's all about.
Not only that, LinkedIn actually promotes a thoughtful comment as a post. So often you'll see that if you go on the LinkedIn feed, you'll see people's posts, but sometimes you'll see one of your connections' comments and it'll actually show the entire comment. A comment can have as many words as a post. So you can repurpose your posts as comments, and then if you write a thoughtful comment, you can later repurpose that comment as a post. But just know that the algorithm values comments as content as well. And when you leave a comment that's more than 7 words, the algorithm will consider that something worthy of showing on the feed to your connections as well.
So thinking about that, is that what you consider one of the most, would you consider that engagement?
I consider comments the ability for you to get credibility on LinkedIn, because if you just have a profile on LinkedIn and you're never commenting, you're never liking, you're never doing anything, you're not real. Yep. You're just a profile. But the second someone sees I'm real, they want to do business with me. I had a client who signed up to our services. They spent over $100,000 with our marketing agency because we create marketing funnels for B2B companies. And one of the things that he told me is like, Joe, I wasn't even connected to you. I said, so how did you get in touch with me? He said, I saw one of the comments you left on a Gary Vaynerchuk post. I left a comment. He saw the comment. He later checked out my profile. He connected me with his CEO. He wasn't even the CEO. We did business with them. And guess what? Within the first 90 days of us rebranding their website, giving them new collateral, they went to a trade show and they closed a $5 million deal from the messaging we gave them and the collateral that we provided them with. I have a testimonial. If you go to ajaxunion.com and you click on testimonials, he says it right there. He's like, we have so much business from the work that we did with Ajax Union. We are just scrambling to get employees right now because they were able to get the right messaging. So I'm very big into strategy. The right messaging will trigger people to want to do business with you. So telling those stories, I don't believe in case studies. I believe in case stories, because that's a gestalt way to get people to want to do business with you. So we have dozens of case studies, both for our LinkedIn training business and for our marketing agency, and we love creating them for clients as well.
Amazing. And I think this is a really good segue into one of the things that you really inspired me through the last decade is being open and honest and transparent through your social media, almost like what the next generation would call vlogging, right? Gary Vee, who I also used to really look up to him, I've pivoted a little bit away from him just because of his
vulgarity.
Not even vulgarity, just like I believe in balance, just like you do. Obviously, he's less about that.
The hustle.
Just grind. And Gary always, I think, inspired me to just grind until I have those stories. And then obviously, this is what we're doing now, sharing my 20s now in my 30s, looking back. And I think you, on the other hand, share everything, right?
Yeah, people don't want to know what you do for a living. They want to know what you do in your life.
Yep.
That's what I realized one time. I was afraid to actually share my life, and because I thought that it would be arrogant to share your life. Then Tony Robbins, at a seminar that I was at, I went to a 50-hour seminar with Tony Robbins, and he said, you have the right to share what you're proud of. You don't have the right to make things up and lie. That's arrogance. But being proud of things and sharing them is actually inspirational for people.
Yep.
Being a single dad and being able to share my life and being able to share the insights that I learned in my business actually changes people's lives. So I'm inspired to write books. I'm inspired to do seminars. I'm inspired to go on Instagram and share my story, or go on podcasts, or go on LinkedIn and tell my story. I recently took on diving. I dived to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Like, people are like, are you crazy? Why'd you do that? It's because I had a fear. I didn't know I had a fear of the ocean. I thought sharks would eat me. Sharks don't eat humans. They'll bite you if it's murky water and they think that you're some type of fish or something, but don't go in murky water. I mean, learn to protect yourself by not making believe you're a fish. Make them know that you're a human. Keep your hands inside. If you take a bleeding heart and you put it in front of the fish, it'll eat it. But if you put it by your heart, they're not going to eat it. They're going to be like, that's a human. I'm not eating that. They don't want to eat humans. So I learned by experience, and now I jump off boats. I walk off a boat into the bottom of the ocean, and I'm totally cool with it. And the reason I'm able to do that is because I got training.
Yep.
I got many, many hours of training on the computer, and then I flew to Pompano Beach, and I got training in a pool first with a firefighter and a certified trainer that is able to go down and I spent hours and hours and weeks training, and then I practiced, and I got really good at it, and now I could literally spend 50 minutes underwater, get zenned out, be able to connect with the unicorn fish in Hawaii. I'm able to do things that most people can't do because I learned that it's all about skill. It's not about talent. So really getting to know what your discomfort is, really getting to know what your frustrations are. I always say, I want to help hungry entrepreneurs go from frustration to motivation. And people say, why frustration? Because I believe that if you follow your frustrations, it'll lead you to your greatest fears. And when you overcome your fears, you can accomplish anything. And people say, well, you have to be fearless. I don't believe in being fearless. I believe in taking action in spite of having fear, because that is called courage. Courage is not having fear. If you didn't have fear, if you were fearless, you wouldn't need courage. Courage means understanding that it's more important for you to take action than it is for you to stay in your comfort zone. And action could be extremely painful, psychologically painful, physically painful. Doing push-ups is pain. But pain doesn't equal suffering unless it doesn't have purpose. That's why I wrote High Energy Purpose, to help people understand the difference between an internal purpose and an external purpose. I want for people to have a little bit more awareness. So awareness is the foundation. Before strategy even happens, you need to be aware that you need strategy. So awareness comes before strategy. And once you have strategy, then you know you need assets and you need action. And so that's why my whole foundation of everything that I teach all boils down to something that applies to every aspect of your life. You need to have awareness. Then you need to have a strategy. Then you can build assets and take action. And so that's very, very close to my heart, that level of awareness, that level of understanding that fear is false evidence that appears real. It's fake reality. It's all there to challenge you, to help you be able to take more action. And the more action you take, the more satisfaction you'll have.
So, looking back at your social media journey, is there any recommendations that you could give to an entrepreneur that is just starting off on this journey?
90% of people are afraid of public speaking. 90% of people, that's why Dale Carnegie was so successful with his book and with his whole public speaking training. 90% of people are actually afraid. They don't know that they're afraid. Most people don't even know that they are subconsciously afraid of it. They just think, oh, I'm not a public speaker, I don't do that. But really, they're afraid of it. So when I overcame that fear, I also realized I was afraid of having my photo on social media. I didn't like what I looked like. If you don't love yourself, you can't love other people. One of the rules in Judaism that I learned when I trained to be a rabbi is that you have to love other people before you love yourself. And you could only love other people as much as you love yourself. As a matter of fact, the whole concept of Judaism and Torah in general, I see you have a beautiful Torah there. Show the Torah to the camera. yo, he's got the Star of David right here because his name is Zach and he's about to attack it. I love the Torah, and I love the way you are like such a proud Jew, and you're so proud of your Judaism. The whole concept of Judaism is loving your fellow like yourself. Yep. That's the whole epitome. That's the whole reason we even have Torah to begin with, so that we can love other people and really accept them. But you can't love other people unless you love yourself. You cannot love other people unless you love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, you won't share yourself on social media. I did not love what I looked like. I did not love what I sounded like. I did not love myself on video. I actually despised it. I actually cringed. I actually couldn't even watch myself. I couldn't even listen to myself. I was like, look at that guy with the beard. Ew, he's fat. He's ugly. He's an idiot. All those voices, louder than I could possibly hear in my subconscious. I wasn't even aware of it. It was so loud, I wasn't even aware. I was like a fish in water. And once I started realizing that and I started doing the work, you look at my early videos on Facebook, you'll notice I was very aggressive. I was much more aggressive than I am right now. It's because I was fighting that voice. It was an internal struggle that I had, walking down the street, doing street talks and yelling at the camera because I was yelling at the voice. Right. I needed to use a lot of energy to get over that. And now that I use that energy, I can truly just be present and just be with you, a vibe. And so what I want to encourage people is look into those self-limiting beliefs. Look at those frustrations. And if you're not into it, maybe you're not ready to go. There's a lot of junk in the trunk that a lot of people don't even want to meddle with. Self-expression is life. Now, you don't have to express yourself by singing. You could dance. Some people's self-expression is art. Some people's self-expression is something else. For me, self-expression is being able to add value to other people's lives, be able to make introductions, to be able to network, to be able to connect, to be able to grow, to be able to learn. Personal development is my self-expression. Yeah. And so understanding what your self-expression is, how do you express yourself, is loving yourself. And if you're not loving, you're not living. If you're stuck in your fear and your ego, trying to present to people what you think, then you're not going to feel fulfilled. Success and fulfillment is not the same thing. I meet a lot of billionaires who are on their 4th or 5th marriage and they're still trying to figure out how to be happy. Sure. And they're trying to say, if I had another billion, maybe I'd be happy. No, it's not going to make you happy, because fulfillment, feeling complete with who you are, doesn't come from assets. Doesn't come from prettiness, doesn't come from a new car. It comes from knowing who you are to your core. It comes from seeing yourself. It comes from loving what you see. And you can't love what you see unless you can truly see who you are past the mask, past the identity, past the ego, past the BS. And you can't see other people either, because you'll be judging other people. A great indication that you need growth is if you're judging other people. Wow. If a great indication that you're missing something is when you look at somebody and say, oh, that guy's an idiot. Oh, that guy's a moron. Oh, look at him. Oh, wow, look at that guy. When you see that, instead of loving and accepting and seeing the godliness within every single person, I'm not saying you have to spend time with everybody. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So because your network is your net worth, you got to respect your network. I wouldn't come here if I didn't respect you, I didn't honor you, and I didn't love you dearly, and I didn't want to have a deeper connection with you. I want to have that deeper connection. I want to look into your eyes and tell you I love you. But I can't do that over Zoom. Yep. I can only do that in person. I can only have that energy exchange in person. And this will leave you changed like nothing else. And I don't have millions of relationships like that. There's a number called the Dunbar number. You can only have 150 real relationships at one given time based on the way that your brain operates. An anthropologist named Robin Dunbar did the research. And in the research, they found out that really the average person can only have 150 relationships. So if you can only have 150 relationships, why are you connected to 1 million people online? Like, why are you trying to go viral? Instead, stay top of mind with the people that know you, like you, and trust you. Keep expanding that circle and start expressing yourself. That doesn't mean you need to share anything private. I don't share my private life. Nobody knows the details of my separation. Nobody knows the details of what's going on in my health and things like that are private. But people know my personal life because I take business personal. I take life personal. And I want people to know me personally. I don't want strangers to know me. I want the right people to know me. I want people in EO that I have a relationship with. I want people in Vistage and YPO, people that are watching this, that resonate with your message, because if they vibe with you, they'll vibe with me, because you're one of the tribe, and you got to vibe with your tribe.
Yeah, and I think, something that really stands out, because this morning I was thinking about, what is one specific event that Joe has shared to show that you're a human being that has really affected me. And obviously, one of the things that stood out to me the most was your one of your Florida visits. I don't know if it was your first or one of your first when you took all of your kids to Florida and you got stuck, right?
Oh my God, it was a 12-hour ordeal. It was insanity. We went to Newark Airport because it was you could park the car and then they drive you to the terminal, which was much more convenient. So I did that with the kids because I couldn't leave them alone at the airport and then go park the car and then come back. And we have too many kids with too many bags, and I don't want to take 2 separate taxis. And so we just drove to Newark, parked over there, and everything's going smooth. And all of a sudden, they're like, we get on the plane first because I have Mosaic and everything's great. And all of a sudden, we're sitting there and we're on the plane, we're on the runway, and then they're like, well, we have to go back to the gate. Everyone has to get back off, and then we'll put you on another flight. And we're like, all right, not so terrible, but my kids need to go to the bathroom until they get back to the gate. We're basically like 2 hours on the runway. Yep. Finally get off the plane, my kids are vomiting, they're not feeling well, they're crying, they're screaming, it's just an insanity. It was till we ended up just going back home after. We got on another plane.
I remember.
We got off, so we got on a plane, get off the plane. Me and 5 kids. They're angry, they're frustrated, they're upset. People are yelling and screaming, so the whole environment is not great. On plane, off plane. On plane, off plane. Try to go home, we lose a bag. Go find the bag. Deal with everyone, kids are hungry. We already ran out of food because we only have food for 6 hours. We're 12 hours into a trip that's supposed to only be 2.5 hours. We get back home, we're staying here for the weekend, and then we ended up just going to JFK after the weekend and getting new flights and going, and that was smooth. But that was one of the most crazy ordeals, but I stayed centered because I did the box breathing that I talk about in High Energy Secrets. Yep. I stayed hydrated, make sure my kids were hydrated, and I was just present in the moment. And when you get present in the moment, you can be a Navy SEAL. Navy SEALs get training on how to deal with the most difficult situations in Afghanistan where their life is at risk. And you do that through getting present, getting in the moment, breathing. And if you have your breath, you have everything you need.
I couldn't agree more. And I think one of the most interesting parts of that for me, looking back, was no one would have stayed documenting that entire journey. Maybe they would have done the beginning, or at the end they would have been like, fuck you, Delta, or whatever the case is when people are frustrated. But I remember I go to bed early, and I remember waking up the next morning and being like, I got to see if he made it to Florida. And seeing that human aspect is really why we're doing this podcast, right?
People look at my LinkedIn and they're like, I want to do business with you. Right. Now, people also look at my LinkedIn and say, I don't want to do business with you. And that's okay too.
That's their choice.
There was a guy, I have a rap on my music on hold.
We're about to get the rap in a little bit.
So I have a rap on my music on hold. And so when people are waiting for me in my conference line, they listen to a rap while they're waiting for me. My name is Joe and you're waiting right here, and they're whatever. And I say, you try your own rap, and I give them a beat to try their own rap. And a guy sends me an email and he's like, I will never do business with you. I will never do business with someone that raps. I triggered him because he has something against, maybe he's a racist or maybe whatever, and he didn't want to do business with me. And I actually felt bad. And I thought about removing the rap from my thing because I didn't want to offend him. And my team's like, no, you got to double down. You got to start rapping at seminars. You got to start making this part of your brand. And people love it. I have so many more customers that started doing business with me because I enjoy rapping versus the people that don't want to do business with me because I am who I am. Some people think it's unprofessional to rap. Who the heck are you that you think it's unprofessional to rap because it triggers you emotionally because you have some belief that if you rap, you're low class? What are you talking about? It's just a genre of music that I actually enjoy the cleverness of it. I enjoy the beat. I enjoy all the aspects of it. I grew up with Biggie in Brooklyn. Yeah. And so understanding, he wrote the 10 crack commandments. I wrote the 10 commandments of networking. So that's the idea.
Yeah, and to relate to it for my own business, we always wanted to get into the donation center aspect of it. But we were so afraid that customers would want discounts or want jobs for free if we were selling their items ultimately on behalf of them, but just selling their items. And a couple years ago, I remember saying to myself, what if we lean into it? What does that look like? What if we were to give them a one-pager when they sign up for us explicitly stating what Remix Market is, that we're a for-profit but a for-purpose. And yes, we're gonna sell the items, but that's because 90% of all the donations will get donated. We call those the average Joe items. And that very select items that you see on Instagram are the really nice items, and then 10% of the sales will go directly to Remix. So I think what we ended up doing is just explicitly stating it.
I always say be yourself, because everybody else in the whole wide world, they're already taken.
Did we lose customers for it? Absolutely. Are there customers that right now probably don't understand it and are gonna get frustrated at us later, today or tomorrow? Of course. But 90, we're not doing it for the minority, we're doing it for the majority, and the majority look at it and they say, holy shit, like this is real. They're super open and transparent about it. They're talking about it on social media, through Junk Luggers and through Remix. We're talking about it on the podcast. And ultimately, I don't care if there's people that don't like the idea, because I want to give them the decision before they even spend any money to ultimately say, do I agree with this person or do I not?
And not only that, like when you think about your competitive advantage actually has to turn off most people that are not ideal clients for you. So even if most people were not interested in doing business with you, if that's your competitive advantage, stick to it, because you're gonna get loyal fans. The more on the spectrum you are, the more like you're not like in the center, the more out you are. You don't wanna be crazy, you don't wanna be totally insane, but you wanna be polarizing. Russell Brunson wrote a book called .com Secrets, and he talks about not just being mainstream, because if you're mainstream, no one cares. Nobody cares about the people that are just vanilla. You wanna be a little to the left, not all the way because you're insane, but you want to be like right over here on the cusp, and you got to pick your flag, do it, and then you're going to get the people that hate you and the people that love you. Dan Kennedy said the following. He said that if you haven't upset anybody by noon, by 12 p.m., then you're not marketing hard enough. Yeah, so I always tell people, you just got to be yourself. You got to figure out who you are, and you will find your tribe. And when you find your tribe, they're not just going to do business with you, but they're going to refer you more people that I like that. And that's what I love about networking and relationship building, that it has like that effect of getting your right customer. When I'm cold calling, I don't know how people are. Of course. I don't know who they are, and I get a lot of people that are not referable when we're cold calling. But when I'm doing networking, I get people that are like my friends. I get people that are like me, like them, we're like each other, and now I have a circle of customers that like each other and that like me, and they're all referring me more people that are like me, that like the concept of rap, that like the concept of self-expression, that like the concept of transparency, that like the concept of sustainability, of the stuff that we stand for, the stuff that we appreciate. Not everybody's into that. But if you're into that, you're going to find more people that are into that as well, if you can truly be honest and true to who you are.
One of the reasons that I knew I loved you was your love for Jack Daly. I still remember the first time I saw Jack Daly speak was at an EO event, and just watching him just fired up. And I know that he's done this thousands of times, but still he made every single person in that room feel like this was his first time saying that information, right?
I literally just watched him speak at the Executives Association of New York City. Literally. Maybe 3 weeks ago or so. He came to speak at the Executives Association, and I sat there for 4 hours taking notes. And after that, I shared a LinkedIn newsletter article with my 78 insights that I learned from Jack Daly. Wow. And these are 78 bullet points of things. I've read all his books. I've watched him multiple times at EO. He spoke for EO Brooklyn, spoke for EO New York. Yep. He spoke for Vistage. He spoke for the Executives Association. Every time I see him anywhere, I go watch him speak. One of the things I love most about him is his level of enthusiasm. Yeah. Enthusiasm actually transfers to other people. It's actually like infectious because people mirror each other. So when I'm with him, I'm vibing at his level. And I like to vibe at a high energy level. He has a tremendous amount of energy, and at his age, in his late 70s, he is not a young man by any means. No. He's gone through a lot of health complications, and he still keeps his energy really, really high because he's alive. You live one time. When you're dead, you could rest. When you're alive, use your energy, increase your energy, vibe at a very high energy. And when you're vibing at that energy level, you're going to find other people that are also vibing at the energy level of joy. I call it the energy level of joy. When you love what you do, you have enthusiasm. When you're in the level of joy, you're at a very high vibration. The only thing higher than joy is peace. But if you're at joy, if you're at gratitude, if you're at the giving mentality, the level of abundance, I want to be part of that tribe. I want to be on that vibe. And what's going to end up happening is I'll get more people in that state of abundance, the giver mentality. I always tell all my clients, all my students, the secret to living is giving, not taking and faking. Giving. What does it mean to give? You first have to get to know somebody to figure out what they want. And Jack Daly knows what his ideal client wants. They want inspiration. They want tips. They want motivation. They want practical advice. One of the things that I learned from Jack Daly is that if you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. Yep. I mean, that just like fired up in my brain. So I have multiple assistants that help me out. He also told me that if you want to be good at a particular skill, he says what Tony Robbins always says, that success leaves clues. So you just have to find a coach that has done it already and that is willing to train other people to do it. So in every area of my life that I wanted to improve, I got a coach because of Jack Daly. Yeah. I got a writing coach. I got a rap coach. I got a sales coach. I got every type of coach that I can find. I got a meditation coach. I still have her. Her name is Irina. She's amazing. She helps me not only meditate, but she helps me write my own meditations to be able to help me improve my own mindset. So I record my own meditations and I listen to them, and that helps me be able to get into this state, this theta state, to reprogram my mind to be able to create that positivity and be able to infect other people with that as well to make this world a better place.
Amazing. And I think I'm just going to put it out in the world right now. We're going to get Jack Daly on this podcast. Jack's never going to watch this because I know he's not watching podcasts, but hopefully through your inspiration of talking to him, we're going to fly out there and make it painless for Jack and get him on this podcast because he's changed my life so much. I know he's changed your life so much. And everyone that I recommend, you know, he's like the Tony Robbins that didn't get to that, you know.
He's the Tony Robbins of YPO, EO, and Vistage. That's what he is. And he's real. He's not like one of those people that, like, you know, are selling you a hogwash of motivational BS. Right. He's like telling you right now, he's like, if you're a CEO and you're also the sales manager, then part-time you're not running your company and part-time you're not running your sales team. You know, like he says it with so much enthusiasm, but at the same time also so much love and so much caring. And so I highly recommend you guys buy his new book, Jack Daly's book, Lifestyle by Design. Definitely check him out on Amazon. He has all his books. He has a sales playbook, all that stuff. So definitely check it out. And maybe we should cut out this clip specifically for him and just send him this clip here.
I've already emailed him multiple times. I know he doesn't look at his emails, but we're going to get him.
Yeah, no. The key is to post it on Facebook and tag him. Post this little clip on Facebook and tag him, and you're going to get his attention.
Roger, you got that.
Boom.
You got that, Roger. This is entrepreneurship, right? Some people might look at it as stealing from Tim Ferriss. I look at it as learning from one of the greats.
It's like, you know, what we call an EO, it's called R&D, rip off and duplicate.
Yep. If you could have a billboard anywhere in the world, where would it be? What would it say? And obviously, Lug Life would pay for it.
I would have a massive billboard outside my mother's window in Florida.
I love that.
And I would say, Ma, I love you. I love my mother so much, and I want her to know that she has inspired me to be an entrepreneur who loves helping other people, who loves making a difference. And I want her to know that. I want her to know that with all my heart and all my soul. I want her to know that she's loved, that she's valuable, and she's an amazing, amazing person. So thinking about Mother's Day and the tribute post that I put to her, I want her to know that. And I think that if I did that for her, that would fill my heart and that would fill her heart as well.
I love that. That's the first one dedicated non-business, which is super inspiring. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I want to know, like, what's your relationship with Judaism? Because I see you wear it proudly on your chest, like by your heart. You wear the Torah and the Star of David. I want to know what your relationship is with Judaism.
It's a great question. I think, well, first of all, this is our family necklace. Every Cohen male is given this at their bar mitzvah, and no one's forced to wear it or anything, but we all wear it starting from our bar mitzvah until the end of our lives. So to me, it not only represents something that I'm super proud of, being Jewish, but also my family and just the importance of such a strong, tight-knit family. Obviously, you know my brother, you know how close we are, and I think that has always pushed me to just like step up my game and to not only think about myself, which obviously I'm just like you, I do a ton of personal development, personal exploration, but also thinking about how I'm going to inspire my family and bring them along the way. So besides from the family aspect, when I think about Judaism, I think it does two things for me. One, I've always considered myself to be a very spiritual person, but it's also created these relationships in my life that I know I would have never had without it. I went to a Jewish summer camp, 10 summers long. Now having a kid, I understand my parents not only wanted me to learn my Jewish identity, but also kick me out of the house so they had space. So I plan on doing the exact same thing with my kids. And also, I think there's something so special knowing that there's such a small amount of Jews left who identify as Jews in the world, yet no matter where you go, we have that connection. And it's just so amazing that just by wearing a necklace, no one would ever expect me to be a blonde Jew, but just by seeing this necklace, it always starts conversations. It always starts this tribe member conversation. And to me, it's something that, I've gone in and out of my relationship with God. Every single morning I pray in the shower after I take my cold shower. And, I feel like I'm more proud than I ever have. And now I understand why my parents made such a big deal out of it, because it's so important to me that my daughter understands why I'm proud of being a Jew. I once saw something so amazing that was like, don't say you're Jewish. You're not Jewish. You're a Jew. And I think that I've really leaned into this aspect in my life. And, I think there's so much you can learn from every religion. But for me, one of my purposes in life is explaining why Judaism means so much to me and how I can teach others to embrace it.
I love that. It's such a great answer. A lot of people answer it differently. That's a question that I like to ask people, especially if I see that they're wearing, a Star of David, or they're wearing, a tattoo or a yarmulke or something. I ask them, what does Judaism mean to you? And you happen to also be a Kohen. A Kohen is a priest that has been given very special powers to bless. So can I ask you for a blessing?
My blessing to you today, Joe, is that you keep being yourself and you keep changing lives. And to the day that you leave this earth, you focus on being as real as possible. Because although you and I don't talk daily, weekly, monthly, seeing you on social media, seeing you on LinkedIn and on Instagram really has affected my course of my life and wanting to be more open and transparent, not just about the good things, but the in-between things and the really ugly things. And my blessing to you is that you keep inspiring others through your Mojovation to accept who they are, and not only accept who they are, but constantly push yourself to keep growing. Never be happy with just the present, and always having some sort of vision of what the future might look like.
Amen. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Such a beautiful answer to a blessing. Very, very powerful.
If our viewers want to follow you, what is the social media channels they should follow?
The best way to follow me is to go to joelinkedin.com. Follow me on LinkedIn or find me on Instagram. The Instagram handle is @joeapfelbaum. I love when people connect with me and actually message me. A lot of people will follow people, but they won't message them because they're like, oh, they're popular, I don't want to bother them. It would actually be a bother if you didn't message me. So I want you to message me. I want you to engage with me. So if you see my story on Instagram, give me a heart, give me a message, telling me how it affected you. If you see some of my posts somewhere, leave a message. I read every single message. I read every single email. So please do reach out to me, and I try to respond to every single person, whether it's an Instagram message, whether it's a LinkedIn comment or a DM or an email. I try to respond to every single thing. I'm one of those people that never ghosts. I don't ghost people. I'll respond to a sales rep. I'll respond to a call. I'll respond to everything. And if I forget, it's on you to follow up. But yeah, I'm not a person that just ghosts people randomly.
That concludes episode 9 of the LUG Life podcast with my very good friend, Joe. Shout out to Joe. This one was super powerful and inspirational. I know everyone watching is going to absolutely fucking love this. And just shout out to you being yourself. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate our connection. I really appreciate the things that you shared. Also, you shared so much as well. And I love every single time we get together, whether it's at a business networking event, whether it's just seeing ourselves at a seminar or something. Every time I see you, you have a certain light about you. So thank you for sharing this space with me and for allowing me to be here.
Shout out to Joe.
Boom. This is great.
I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. It's such a... Here we go. Everything I do, I manifest. Everything I do, cause I'm blessed. Everything I do, I manifest. Cause I'm all effing blessed. I'm blessed. All right, so I'm gonna put on a little track over here.
Nice.
Do you have a preference with the type of track?
No.
You don't have a preference? All right, let's see.
Whatever is gonna make you flow the best. Let's go off.
Yo. Here we go, take a look. I wrote this mo effing book. I'm a junk lugger, I'm not a tugger. I come to this place cause I wanna hang with Zach. I don't want to have a heart attack, so I'm gonna keep it smooth, gon' keep it smooth, gon' keep it smooth. Yo, my name is Joe and I'm the LinkedIn pro. Everybody out there, they just want to grow, but they're not posting, they're just coasting. Don't look at them, look at me. I'm about to show you my strategy. I'm gonna take it from the bottom all the way to the top. Cause you know me, I never like to stop. I got the high energy. 1, 2, 3, I get to the back of the truck. Cause you know I don't give up. Yeah, you know me, what I like to do, I like to drive really high, really high. I wanna reach the sky, I wanna show you that ROI, cause I got Roger. He's the best of the best, cause you know he's always blessed, cause you know he's never stressed, cause you know him. He's got the camera, he's got it going on with Zach and his shades. Everybody know, cause we gotta go, cause we gotta grow, cause look at me, Joe with the right LinkedIn strategy. Gonna teach you what to do, gonna teach you how to be a Jew. I got the Torah on my chest, cause I'm blessed. You know me, yeah, that's how we rock, that's how we roll. This is what we're gonna do, we're gonna achieve our goal. Me and you, we're gonna drive fast, we're gonna do things, then we're gonna relax, cause we need to have the balance, not like Gary, need to have the balance, just chillin' with your family. Take your kids for a stroll, let them know that you know their soul, cause you know how to connect, you know how to be direct, cause you be you. You be you, you be true. You know me cause I'm like glue. Me and you be always connected from above all the way. That's what I got, baby.
Woo! That was awesome. Thank you.
I have no idea what I even said. I hope you recorded that.
No, that was awesome. Dude, you just freestyled for 2.5 minutes.